Evelyn clutched the necklace, its silver pendant cold against her skin. Her grandmother's words echoed in her ears. Mirrors hold memories, Evelyn. Some hold souls. The old woman's tales had always sent shivers down her spine, a chilling blend of folklore and warning. Evelyn never understood their significance until now, not until her grandmother's passing. Now, she was headed to Blackwood Manor, an inheritance that felt more like a curse. A chill ran down her spine as her grandmother's final words resurfaced. Beware the reflection that whispers back. Evelyn had never quite believed her grandmother's stories. They were like fairy tales, spun with a darkness that both fascinated and frightened her. But standing here at the foot of the imposing manor, a sense of foreboding settled over her. The air grew heavy, as if the weight of unseen eyes pressed down upon her. The whispers of the wind sounded like murmurs of warning. Evelyn swallowed, her throat suddenly dry. She gripped the pendant tighter, seeking comfort in its cool touch. The manor loomed before her, its silhouette stark against the dying light. It was time to face her inheritance, and the secrets that whispered within its walls. The manor was a relic of a bygone era, shrouded in an almost palpable silence. Dust motes danced in the slivers of light that pierced through the boarded-up windows. Evelyn stepped cautiously, her footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness. Each room seemed to hold its breath, heavy with the weight of forgotten stories. And then she saw it. In the parlor, standing almost like a sentinel, was an enormous mirror. Its frame was a masterpiece of silverwork, intricate and beautiful, yet tarnished with age. The glass itself was strangely clear, reflecting the dim light with an unnatural sharpness. Evelyn's breath hitched in her throat. This was no ordinary mirror. This was the mirror from her grandmother's stories. The one that whispered. An inexplicable chill snaked down her spine. The room seemed to grow colder, the air thick and heavy. She felt a presence, an awareness that sent goosebumps erupting across her skin. Her hand instinctively went to the pendant, her fingers tracing its familiar shape for comfort. Fear, cold and unfamiliar, began to bloom in her chest. Despite the dread creeping into her heart, Evelyn was drawn to it. The mirror held a strange allure, a silent invitation she couldn't ignore. She found herself standing before it, her reflection staring back at her with an unnerving intensity. The silence in the room pressed in, broken only by the erratic beat of her own heart. Evelyn had always felt uneasy around mirrors. It was an irrational fear, she knew, but their reflective depths always seemed to hold something more. A flicker of movement, a fleeting shadow, just at the edge of perception. But this mirror was different. As she stared into its depths, she could have sworn she saw a movement, a subtle shift, a whisper of motion just beyond the surface. It was as if something watched her from the other side. And then she heard it. A whisper, soft and low, like a breath against her ear. It seemed to emanate from the mirror itself, a voice that slithered into her mind. "Evelyn," it whispered, her name a caress of sound that sent shivers racing down her spine. Evelyn stumbled back, her heart pounding against her ribs. Her breath caught in her throat, a strangled gasp escaping her lips. It couldn't be real. It was just the wind or her imagination playing tricks in the stillness of the old house. She spun around, searching for the source of the voice, but the room was empty. Slowly, cautiously, she turned back to the mirror. Her reflection stared back, her own eyes wide with fear. But there was something else there, in the depths of her reflection. A flicker of shadow, a distortion at the edge of her vision. It was gone as quickly as it appeared, but she knew what she had seen, or rather, what she had heard. The mirror had spoken her name. Days turned into weeks, and the whispers continued. They would come at random, faint and insidious, weaving their way into her thoughts. Sometimes it was her name, spoken with a haunting familiarity. Other times it was snippets of conversation, fragments of memories that weren't her own. Evelyn tried to rationalize what she was experiencing. She told herself it was the stress, the isolation of the old house getting to her. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted. A doubt that took root and grew with each passing day, whispering of a truth she couldn't accept. The reflection in the mirror no longer looked like her own. There was a subtle difference, a shift in her features that spoke of a growing unease. Her eyes seemed larger, darker, as if something lurked beneath their surface. The whispers, once faint and distant, were becoming clearer, more insistent. They wormed their way into her waking thoughts, her dreams. Evelyn felt herself unraveling, her grip on reality slipping with each passing day. She couldn't escape the feeling that she was being watched, observed. The house, once silent, seemed to hum with a hidden energy, a presence that whispered just beyond her perception. Her reflection in any mirror, not just the antique one, seemed to mock her, its gaze filled with a knowing malice that sent shivers down her spine. She was losing herself in the reflection, her sense of identity dissolving into the depths of the mirror's gaze. Desperate for answers, Evelyn sought out the local historian, a frail, bird-like woman named Mrs. Hawthorne. She listened intently as Evelyn recounted her experiences, her roomy eyes widening with each whispered detail. When Evelyn finished, Mrs. Hawthorne sat back, her face etched with a mixture of concern and grim understanding. "The echo glass," Mrs. Hawthorne breathed, her voice barely a whisper. "Legend has it that the mirror was crafted by a sorcerer, bound with a spell to trap souls within its reflection. It is said to prey on the deepest fears, the darkest desires of its victims, twisting their reflections into instruments of torment." Mrs. Hawthorne's words struck a chord of terror within Evelyn. The legend of the echo glass was more than just a local tale. It was a chilling explanation for the horrors she had been experiencing. The whispers, the unsettling reflection. It all pointed to a truth she had been denying. "Can it be stopped?" Evelyn asked, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and desperation. "Can the mirror be destroyed?" Mrs. Hawthorne shook her head slowly, her gaze heavy with sympathy. "The magic that binds the echo glass is ancient and powerful. It is said that the only way to break the curse is to confront the darkness within the mirror, to face your deepest fears and emerge victorious."